welcome to Paddock Pass, your post-qualifying edition for the 2019 Monaco Grand Prix. Probably one of the most important qualifying sessions of the entire season, given how difficult it is, and has always been, to pass around the streets of this principality. It's a funny one, really. You have the practice on the Thursday, then you have the Friday off. This year it rained going into Friday, and then you had the Formula 2 race and all of that kind of mess, and we came in to today, and the track was a little bit different. It was a lot warmer today than it had been. We were expecting rain for today, but it never arrived. That has shifted into potential rain for tomorrow and for the race. So it's still all to play for, potentially, come the Grand Prix. But as we said, one of the most important qualifying sessions of the year. Grid position here is all important. Any mistake, it can be huge. You cannot afford to gamble on these streets paved with gold. The casino's up the top of the hill. That's pretty much the only place you do want to gamble. Some teams today did gamble. One team gambled and got it terribly, terribly wrong in Q1. No surprise really to see the Williams at the back of the field. They've been obviously languishing at the back for most of this weekend. It was always going to be a tough one for them, and a tough one it proved to be once again. Kubica 20th, Russell 19th. Again, no surprises there. I think what has been a surprise is the Racing Point upgrade that came onto the car in Spain really hasn't done the job for them. They weren't great there. They've been languishing towards the back all the way through this weekend. In fact, throughout practice on Thursday, it was Racing Point and Renault that looked to be the furthest off the pace. And while Renault managed to improve their speed throughout today, Racing Point is still way off at the back. Stroll, again, cannot get a lap hooked up. And he told me after the session, he's just really, really struggling to get that car into the place where he can extract everything out of it for one lap. So for as long as he's got that problem, he's never going to perform well on a Saturday. Perez actually quite close to making it through into Q2. The top 17 drivers covered by just 0.8 seconds. That's how close it was, because the track was improving all the way to the end. With that in mind, your Ferrari, do you leave your driver in the garage? Well, not one of them, because Sebastian Vettel was out on track and promptly went P1, and in going to P1 promptly pushed his teammate Charles Leclerc out into P16. Leclerc furious. We saw him in the garage walking off, and deservedly so, I think. His home Grand Prix, best chance for him in a long time. He topped free practice 3 this morning. He was out at the end of Q1.
Extremely disappointed. Obviously, it's disappointing to be out of Q1 in a Ferrari, but even more when you're at home, and even more on a track like this where you can't overtake. We can't afford to do these things, and yeah, it's just a big disappointment. And I will speak with the team for them to explain me the decisions behind this. I don't know. I asked a question, but I didn't have any return. I think it was quite busy for them. I don't know. I don't have any explanations yet, but very disappointing.
You've put a brave face on it all season in the questions that we've asked you about the strategic decisions or indecisions of your team. How much does this need to be addressed now? Because this isn't the first time this year. It's a regular occurrence now.
Well, I think it's a different subject and a different strategy. I mean, this is qualifying. Today we clearly got it wrong, but yeah, we need to understand how to make these decisions better.
That really was a huge storyline here in Monaco, and you know, it's a question that we asked to Charles on the basis that this is not the first time that he's been let down by strategy. And yes, race strategy and qualifying strategy are different things, but it's part and parcel of the same thing. It's part and parcel of what appears to be an operational catastrophe that is going on at the team. Can they successfully run a two-car team? There are huge question marks right now as to what's going on at Ferrari. No quick answers, but an embarrassment. And on a weekend where yesterday, on the off day, they had the audacity to give a lecture to select media about strategy and about how they go around their strategy, with some members of the media going around afterwards and said, I didn't even know they had a strategy to pass. And so to Q2. Now, I think the big surprise coming out of Q2 is that neither Alfa Romeo made it through into Q3. They looked like they had top 10 pace all the way through the weekend. Giovinazzi said he had an amazing car up to Q2. got it into the qualifying session and just didn't have the grip. Kimi Räikkönen said the same. He said his best time of the weekend in Q2, but everybody else around them just made a bigger leap forward, and that left them down in P15 and P14. Now, Romain Grosjean, P13, really annoyed because the Haas, as his teammates showed, had top 10 pace, been looking good all the way through the weekend, but he was caught on his fastest lap by a very slow-moving Pierre Gasly in the Red Bull. Couldn't get out of his way in time. Gasly's got to go and see the stewards for holding up Romain Grosjean. P13 for Grosjean in that session. P12, Lando Norris for McLaren. Says he's not too disappointed. He's only got 2 places to make up to get into the points. But, again, potential there for McLaren after the sort of steady improvement they've been making through the weekend to make it into Q3 and just ultimately not making the most of that. So to P11, Nico Hülkenberg, and I think a team that had done the most throughout the weekend. Renault really was struggling in free practice on Thursday. They got a big old barn door of a rear wing on their car this weekend, trying to give them the downforce, trying to give them the assuredness over the rear of the car that it won't clatter into the barriers by being too oversteery. Nico Hülkenberg, though, just outside the top 10 as his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, who of course was on pole here last year, did make it through into Q3. We'll hear from Nico Hülkenberg on exactly why that was and actually whether it's a positive thing. As always, we know P11, free choice of tyres. Is that enough, though, for him to be happy at the end of Saturday here in Monaco?
Well, not really, to be honest. No. I think there was a bit more in it, but struggled a little bit to get that last few thousands, and to produce the clean lap. Struggled with that a bit, but I definitely feel I had it in the car. But a few, little issues here and there in corners cost that little bit of time. Obviously we had that incident in Q1 where I missed the weighbridge, but I looked at it and it's a very tight entry here, and I looked and it was green and it must have just switched right after me, but that caused a little bit of hectic and stress, and sort of it took a bit of momentum and put us under stress. But anyway, still an okay position to start from, gives us a bit of flexibility in terms of strategy and start tires, so we'll try to make use of that.
And so to pretty much inarguably the most exciting 10 minutes, I think, of the Formula One season, Q3 in Monaco. Now, with Charles Leclerc out of the picture, that was one fewer driver for the Mercedes and, in fact, the Red Bulls to worry about. He had, of course, topped FP3 in the morning. His teammate, Sebastian Vettel, had put it in the barrier and hadn't really looked like he was going to, compete for par. I think it's safe to say he hadn't looked quite as good as his teammate all the way through, really, especially going into Q3. Bottas, however, was looking good. Max Verstappen also looking like he had the potential to split the Mercedes. It was a pretty exciting session, I've got to say. Both Toro Rossos made it up into the top 10. Alex Albon said he was happy, but also sad. In that lovely kind of naive and raw, pure honesty that he has. Happy that he made it into the top 10. Sad he didn't quite get as much out of the car as he'd hoped. Ninth, Carlos Sainz. Very happy, actually. He's had a horrible weekend. They lost practice 1. Practice 2 was a catch-up session, went completely the wrong direction and set up for practice 3. So to actually get it back in qualifying and to start the race 9th, huge result for him. He's absolutely delighted. Danik Fiat, P8, says he thinks he's driving brilliantly at the moment, and I agree with him. I think he's driving beautifully. A P8 for the Russian and both Toro Rosso drivers in the top 10 is a great performance and showing what could have been perhaps in Baku. They both said they were hopeful of a good weekend here after their showing there in practice and qualifying. Daniel Ricciardo, P7. He said, if you told me after my horrible Thursday I would be P7, I would be smiling. They made steps forward just outside the top 10 in practice. He said he took a bit of a gamble on setup, and it actually paid off for him going into qualifying blind, but it really sort of paid dividends. Now, we've spoken about Pierre Gasly. He ultimately finished 5th. He said he feels he could have done more. Could have gone after Sebastian Vettel, who ultimately finished 4th today. We'll talk about him in a second. But he feels sorry for Romain Grosjean, was changing stuff on the wheel just at completely the wrong time, didn't realise he was coming. As I said, he's been called to the stewards, so has to answer that. Potentially could get a grid drop. Sebastian Vettel then 4th, didn't compete for pole ultimately. He said if you miss the train, the train keeps on going and you can't catch it up. That's ultimately where he thinks Ferrari are at the moment. They just keep missing the train. It's a nice analogy, but you know, Mercedes are the Swiss train line. You know, they run to time. They're not even a second late departing that platform, and if you are there late, you are going to miss that train. And Ferrari, it's just an organisational nightmare at the moment. So let's talk to the guy who was, I think, probably the standout driver of the day, Kevin Magnussen, P6, beautiful drive. And you know what K-Mag's like, when his shoulders are back and his chest puffed out and he's got that big smile, you know it's been a good day.
Yeah, it was a real team effort. You know, it was a fantastic car. Of course, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do P6. But then I touched the wall and damaged the front wing, and you know, had to abort that run and come in, change the front wing and change a few other things. And you know, I put a lot of extra stress on the guys, so they just turned it around brilliantly to enable me to get out again and do the laps that we'd planned. So yeah, got into Q3 because of that, and again, just car was working really well. Was able to put a decent lap time in the first round. Then on the second run, I had 2 laps, and again, just improved and improved. Just was able to push with this really good car we've had this weekend.
And so to your top 3. Yes, it's another Mercedes 1-2, but incredibly, it's Lewis Hamilton's first pole position since Australia. That seems batty, doesn't it? And yet that's the truth. Really meant a lot to Lewis. We heard it on the slowdown lap. He jumped up on the fence a bit, Elio Castro Neves style, which was great to see. It means a lot to him, to the whole team, obviously, having lost Niki Lauda on Monday night. Lewis was very close to Niki, and Niki, we know, always gave Lewis, and many drivers actually, that Niki would advise the same bit of advice before they went out to do a big lap. Valtteri can consider himself, I think, a little bit unfortunate today. He looked like he had the pace. Lewis just pulled something magic out of the bag, and Max Verstappen, P3, good job from him. We'll hear from all 3 of them, your top 3 for 2019 here in Monaco. Max, a great job all weekend. Congratulations. Did you ever feel the car had it in it to split the Mercedes today? And do you think it might have it tomorrow?
No, not really. I think the whole weekend it was quite clear that they were always going to be 2 or 3 tenths ahead. Just in Q3 we didn't have the tire time which what we wanted, and that just cost us a bit of lap time, but not enough to fight for pole.
For the race then?
It's not that much happening normally, so P3 hopefully.
Yeah, the practice starts have been very good, so yeah, I'm very confident with the starts. Obviously, Lewis is a good starter as well, and here it is short running into turn 1, so difficult to make a difference, but 7 to 8 laps, who knows what can happen.
Great job. I think it's fair to say you gave it arseholes.
You never heard Nicky say that? Yeah? Yeah, he would always say that to me, so I've just had that ringing in my head all week. It's like, give it arseholes, Lewis. So, you know, I'm really, I don't know where you got that saying from, but yeah, it's meant, it really means the world to me to get that today. It's been a really tough week. Literally like losing a family member, which is, it's so odd when it's not, you know, blood related, but when someone's so impactful in your life, and you know, you're never going to get to speak to that person again. You always want to do right by them, whoever it is, and you just want to live to your potential. You know? I think today I think I was at potential. I lived my potential today, and that's really what I dream of.
So that is your lot from Paddock Pass here in Monaco, post-qualifying show for 2019. Will it rain tomorrow? As it stands, there is a 60% chance, we understand, of rain falling here in Monaco, which people might argue gives a 40% chance that there won't be any rain. You never know. The little microclimate that exists here, the clouds rolling over the hills, can come at any time. It's impossible to know what it will do. If it does rain, that could be Leclerc's only chance of scoring a decent result here. He starts down way towards the back of the field after a catastrophic blunder, once again by Ferrari, in terms of their strategy. And with Sebastian Vettel, I should say, in P4, he doesn't appear to have the pace to compete with the Mercedes drivers either. From listening to Valtteri Bottas, though, from the mood he's in, from the way he's racing at the moment, and having got that clutch sorted out that affected him so much in Barcelona, could we get a little drag race down to that first corner, down to Saint Devote tomorrow? That would be great and could have a massive bearing on the race, as too could a fast starting Max Verstappen getting himself in the mix with those Mercedes. The one thing that we do know about Monaco is that the slightest, smallest mistake can have the biggest effect on the race. We've seen drivers bolted on for the win here, and either a miscalculation in the pits, or a driver, even the great Ayrton Senna, who had a huge advantage, a race he couldn't lose, but he lost his concentration and ended up in the barrier. You can never write anything off. Nothing is a guarantee. Nothing is certain. And that's why it's always such a hotly anticipated race. Join us tomorrow for the Grand Prix. Can't wait, as always, for Monaco. Come rain or shine, promises to be a really exciting afternoon.